Good morning. Today I'm going to make some bagels, and I use this book, the recipe from this book. It's by Emily Raffa, and it's called Artisan Sourdough Made Simple. This is her Sunday morning bagel recipe. I double it, which I know can sometimes be risky in baking, but it seems to work for me. I haven't had any problem with it, and my husband loves his bagels, so that's why I double it. Okay, so I'm going to start by measuring at the starter. And let me just flip open the book so I don't forget something. But I'm doubling it, so I'm using 300 grams of active starter. Here's nice bubbly starter. So I'll turn on the scale. And let's go. See, we're getting there. There we go. Okay, so we're at 300 grams there. And we need 500 grams of warm water. So I'm going to tear out the thing. Let's see if you can see that a little bit better. And go to 500 grams here. There we go. Okay, so then in addition to that, we need 4 tablespoons of sugar, which I have pre-measured here, and I'm going to mix that together. Let's see, it's going to be a little bit of a soupy mess. There we go, it's just a little starter soup. Put it back on the scale. And actually, I don't need the scale anymore because my dry ingredients are measured. Okay, so I have pre-measured, this is 1,000 grams of bread flour. And I use King Arthur, and it's a tablespoon of salt. And let me just take a quick look. Okay, so this is all gonna get poured in here. And this is kind of the hard part, you know. It's going to be a stiffer dough. It's going to be a little bit harder to, let's say, harder to get into like a nice ball. But it works. Usually my thing, I guess the one thing I've learned of it as I've gotten more experience with this is, you know, first when you mix it together, you're incorporating the ingredients, but don't expect it to be perfect at first. Wait 15 minutes, come back and do a stretch and fold. I don't know that the author necessarily says to do it with bagels, but I find that if you try to mix it perfectly at first, you just, I don't know, you're beating up the dough. I'd rather give it a rest, give the gluten a rest. Yeah, you can see it's really like kind of pretty dry and everything. So now I'm gonna get my hands in there. And I don't really like dough getting under my fingernails, so I will use a scraper to get the sides of the bowl periodically. You know, something along the lines of this. Okay, so I'm gonna pound in a little bit, and there are wet bits here. Some starter hasn't even got incorporated yet. And I use this to fold, and then I come back in. And you'll see, kind of sticks to your hands, obviously. This takes a little bit. And again, it's going to be kind of shaggy and rough. I think I've read of people who use mixers. I don't know why. I guess by using Amelia, is it Emily or Amelia? It's Emily. Amelia Raffa's methods, I don't know. I just I've learned to trust my hands more so than the mixer. So that's my call. But this is a harder, it's a heavier, stiffer dough to work with. Okay, and obviously it's a lot of it because I'm doubling the recipe. Okay. So when I stop, there's probably going to be some dry bits still there. You know, I might not stop when it's all the dry bits won't be gone. But what I do when I come back to it in 15 minutes, I will use a little water in my hand to maybe moisten up the dough just a teeny bit more. And that does help a little bit. See how that's shaggy? You know, so I'm almost done with this first mix. I'm going to get a little bit of the flour that's stuck to the bottom of the bowl off. Scrape that up. Kind of get that in the middle of the dough. All right, so this is enough for now. This is not pretty. There you go. Okay, and we'll come back to it. I'll give it 15 minutes. I'm going to put a wet rag over it. So I'll just come over here. Make it pretty wet. There we go. Okay, so I'll see you in 15 minutes. Hello again. It's been 15 minutes. Looks like this. Obviously still not looking that great. So I am going to, so what I do is I have a bowl of water here, right here, and I just like dip my fingers in it just to make my hands a little wet. I'm gonna, again, lift this up from sticking to the bottom. And I just kind of, my hands are just a teeny bit wet and it helps a little bit. Pound in. I will sometimes find little dry bits that, you know, obviously need to be incorporated better. If I find one, I'll show it to you, but I don't know if you'll be able to hear. You could see there are kind of dry bits on the bottom there. I don't know if you could see that. But, you know, just a little dip, very little water helps. And you'll see the dough becomes more malleable and makes it, I wouldn't call these a stretch and fold because you could barely stretch it. Okay, but I do think that letting the dough rest and coming back to it makes it much easier in the long run. So anyway, I'm going to stop again. I'm going to give it another 15 minutes. Looks like this now, better than before. And I'll come back to it. Hi, it's been another 15 minutes. We're going to just give it one more mix. I'll work on it again. So here it looks like this, okay? I'm not going to necessarily dip my hands in water unless I find dry bits, but now I'm just really making sure it's just kind of incorporated well. And it comes away from the bottom of the bowl more easily than it did before. Oops, that's another timer. There we go. You can see it looks a lot smoother than it did before. So I'm going to let this be for, I would say at least 12 hours. Okay, so this is a nice wet rag. I'm going to put it in a nice spot protected from breezes, and I'll be back in the evening. See ya.